Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, we are talking about opportunity cost. I think this is the one biggest blind spot that most Pokemon investors have. And in this video, we are going to go fully through every angle, every which side it goes. I have a long list of notes. We will see how far and deep we dive into it. But yeah, I made a video earlier in the year where I briefly touched on this. And if you want to watch that before or after, go check that out. I just linked it above. Of the main mistakes that people make in Pokemon. And I think this might be the biggest one. So it deserves its own video. Opportunity cost. What does it mean? Opportunity cost means you can come at it from time. You can come at it from money. And I'm primarily going to be going money here. Say you have $1,000. Opportunity cost means that when you are choosing one thing, say you're choosing to invest in Japanese 150. I'm looking for something to grab on my desk here, but I don't have too much. It's pretty clean right now. Say you're looking at 151, Japanese 151, English 150, whatever it may be. When you choose one thing, you are not choosing a lot of other things. You are choosing that one, and then that $1,000 that you have, if you spend it on A, you can no longer spend it on B, right? So what other opportunities are you passing up to choose the one that you are choosing? And you can also look at it differently too, like buried back there's an Evolutions booster box. I could sell that today and I could have $700-800 net after selling fees and all that. I am carrying some opportunity cost not selling that. I am but in choosing to not sell that, and this is where we'll get into the conversation too. Having no personal debt, having no student loan, mortgage debt, automotive debt, having no like business related debt, credit cards, anything like that. My opportunity cost and your opportunity cost, everyone's opportunity cost will vary drastically. One thing that I'm constantly saying on this channel is that we are all in the same arena. The arena that we are within is Pokemon. That is the arena. And we're playing different games. I'm a business. I need to profit, right? Some people are just here having a good time. Some people are here to be entertained. Some people are here to be educated. Some people just want to see people rip cool chase cards and they're not buying any of it or buying little of it, collecting, flipping, investing, scalping. But whatever you define yourself as, whatever your goals are, we all have different ones. And so we are optimizing for different things. You need to be careful not blindly following what anyone else says or does because their goals are likely very different from yours. And yeah, we're all in this same arena, let alone like on top of having different goals, we all have different rules we play by as well. I'm in New York and I'm a business with a reseller certificate of authority, they call it. I don't pay sales tax. One of the big mistakes that I talked about in that video earlier, a lot of people try to do this without getting the proper established foundation of like a business structure. And they're playing by different rules in that they don't have the same write-offs. They don't have the same ability to avoid paying sales tax on items intended for resale. If you get to a really high level, you might get preferential rates with certain selling platforms. You might be able to sell on restricted selling platforms where others cannot sell. Fanatics Live is one that I'm on. eBay Live, I'm not selling on it right now, but that might be coming in the future. There are certain opportunities that people get that others have to wait for or maybe will never get because of restricted situations, specialized relationships. All these things need to be considered. But yeah, opportunity cost. So when you have the $1,000, and you're looking at, well, I'm a Pokemon investor. I'm going to put on my Pokemon investor hat today. What do I want to buy? What should I buy with this $1,000? If you choose Surging Sparks, well, and you only have the $1,000, you can get about 5 boxes, and that means you can't get 151 anymore. Once all your money's exhausted, once all your money's spent, it can only go into one thing. I mean, you could buy a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of the other thing. But whatever you're choosing, you're making the choice of yes, this, and you're also at the same time making the choice of no to all these other things. And what I'll talk about, and at some point later in the video, we might even get the buckets out. We might get the buckets out that I pull out from time to time. When you are choosing one, you are shunning all the others. And when I choose one, having no debt, all that other stuff, the simplest demonstration of opportunity cost I can give is the lowest hanging fruit. You should always look at every dollar you spend. You should look at the lowest hanging fruit. What are my goals? What am I trying to do with this money? If you're investing, you're trying to turn this money into more money. Well, the best way to turn this money into more money is dependent on your situation, dependent on your opportunity cost. There are people out there, I promise you, in the Pokemon space that are saying, hey, look, I made all this money on XYZ. This went up 10%, 20%, the other thing. There are some people doing all that with credit card debt. And I talked a video I made before, financial advice. When you have money in an investment compounding for you, depending on how aggressive you are, depending on what you're looking at, in the best of times, in the best cases, oftentimes you're targeting 7, 10, maybe 12, 15% year over year returns. When you have money compounding against you, when you have debt, when you have bad consumer credit card debt, oftentimes you could be faced with 20 to 30% rates. I have like 3 or 4 different business credit cards that I don't carry balances on. I pay them off in full every month. And if I were to ever carry one, if I were to ever invest too deeply and mismanage my capital and have poor cash flow for a month to where I couldn't pay off one of my statement balances, I would owe 20 to 30%. Most of mine are like 25 to 30% even, because they're high rewards credit cards that are highly rewarding when you're getting that 1, 2, 3% cash back when you buy and pay off your balance in full. But they're highly punishing, very, very punishing if you do not pay in full and then get caught carrying a balance and paying 25 to 30% on that. So, me personally, this is me. This is not for you, but like when I say what I would do for me, yeah, that's I have a hard time understanding how, but I know people do it. How do you justify investing in cardboard and investing in speculative stuff? And I know you can point, oh, look, I mean, I invested in Surging Sparks at 100 and it went to 200. At hindsight's easy. Yes, you should buy things that double within a week or a month, but you usually don't know that's going to happen until after it's already happened. But yeah, if you are an individual, or if I was an individual with $1,000 in my hand and I had a constant $1,000 revolving credit debt, on my books, and I had the ability to just save 30% interest, I mean, saving 30% interest is the same as achieving that, right? Like, there's no account out there that you can put $1,000 into and then guaranteed have $1,300 the next year, but you are functionally doing that, paying off high interest debt. So if I were someone that had the opportunity cost of having high interest debt, I would absolutely choose that every single time. Because yes, Surging Sparks in hindsight did go up 100% in a few months, but that is not always the case. There are many times in history where 6, 12, 24-month time periods, boxes are flat or slightly down. And there are 100% of times in history that people have used $1,000 or $100, $1,000, $1 million, whatever the scale is, it doesn't matter. 100% of the time that you pay off a credit card carrying a certain percent interest, you will always save that interest guaranteed. There are very few guarantees in life, but paying off high interest debt, you are guaranteed to achieve that return. So that's like the simplest, most basic form of opportunity cost. Over the past few weeks, some of my live streams, I also ranted and rambled about some other ones that I will give too, because constant question that I get in live streams, and it's a reasonable one too, but I can never answer it. I always have to give the standard Dan answer of it depends. It always depends. I do not know your opportunity cost. It is different from mine. And I said that same thing in a recent video, a recent live stream. I said, Surging Sparks, if you're holding it today, should you sell it? Should you sell it? What is your opportunity cost? Do you have 5 cases of Surging Sparks that you bought at $100 a box pre-order? You paid $600 a case, and now you can sell them for $1,200 a case, and you put them on a 30% credit card? Yes, you should sell them. Yes, I would sell them if I were in your shoes. If my opportunity cost were that I am currently sitting on a double up, I mean, even if I wasn't sitting on a double up, even if I was breaking even to get them off the books, to be able to pay off that credit card, I would. But if you are Rudy and you have a pallet of Surging Sparks and you have pallet of several other sets and you have the money to place your pre-order allocations for to pay for your pre-order allocations for Prismatic Evolutions, it's a very different situation. So should I sell my Surging Sparks at 200? And a lot of people will look. A lot of people will look at a chart over a certain time frame. They'll look at how Evolving was $300 X amount of months ago, and then today it's what, $800 or so. They'll say that Evolving Skies was objectively a good hold, objectively a good decision, investment to be held in. I promise you that there are people out there that are in such crazy financial situations that they would have been better served. And it's very easy to look. Oh well, look at Bitcoin. Look at what Bitcoin's done. It's up 25% in the past month or two or whatever. Evolving Skies is up 100% in the past 12, 16, 18 months, whatever it is. There are times where having that money locked up. I'm gonna give a quick little anecdote here. So there was a guy. This is kind of unrelated, but it's also kind of related. There was a guy who had a car and he put like a $3,000 sound system into it. It was probably a $5,000 car, and he owed say he owed 2 or 3 grand on it to pay it off in full. Instead of paying it off in full, he wanted to listen to music and he wanted to be able to do it very well. And literally the amount of money that he could have used to pay off the car, he instead decided to put a sound system into the car so that he could enjoy the car more. Well, next thing he knows that the car needs a muffler and maybe his water heater goes, this, that, and the other thing. He has no emergency fund build up. He has no other money to turn to. And maybe this could be the case, having your Pokemon investments built up, having all this illiquid, more illiquid than other things. He ended up getting the car repoed. So in the time that he spent all that money on that, like had he had, and this was probably not the case, but had he had a case of Evolving Skies, had he had a handful of cases of Brilliant Stars that appreciated 20, 30, 50%, 100% over the past X amount of time, he would have been better served selling that, not realizing all those gains, and keeping the car that got him to and from his job. Like, it's kind of a very outlier anecdotal situation. But again, if I were in a live stream talking to 200 people, if I'm in a live stream talking to 100 to 200 people, there might be a person like that out there listening. So when someone asks in chat, should I sell my Surging Sparks booster boxes? You've got people all the way from the spectrum of that all the way up to maybe a business similar to me, no debt, got their money all squared away, have their money, their cash flow earmarked for Prismatic. You can't just give one answer. You can never give one answer. It always depends. And here's another example too. Say you're holding your Surging. Say you're holding your Surging that you bought at 100. You're up 100% on paper. You have no credit card debt. Everything else is good to go. But say that your working capital for your business, side hustle, whatever it may be. Say you have like 10 grand, but it's all locked up. All your 10 grand is locked up. You are completely illiquid. All your money that you allocate to Pokemon, like say you started, like I started 10 years ago, I started with 5 grand and I snowballed that. I added time, but I didn't add more money. I bought collections, I sold, I bought, sold, bought, sold. That 5 grand turned into 7 figures plus through buying, selling, the market booming, appreciating, all that stuff. But I never really added more money. So if you're in that situation where, say you've got your, whether it's $100, $10,000, $1 million, you've got it all tied up. And here's an example that I gave. Because I'm always buying to feed my live streams. I am always buying. I've bought in the past 3 weeks. I've bought over $100,000 of mostly loose booster packs for live stream rips. I've also bought singles and slabs. I buy primarily at 75%. Feel free to reach out if you want to sell. If your opportunity cost of what you're holding, you're not happy with it, you want to turn that into liquid capital so that you can make more plays in the future, feel free to reach out. But one example I gave, so you're this individual, you have 10 grand in stuff. A lot of it's up. I mean, in today's market, depending on what you have, there's a decent chance that it's up at this point. But you have no money left, no money that you want to add. You don't want to go deeper into Pokemon, percent of your net worth wise, whatever it may be. And you go to Costco. And you're going shopping and you're buying your groceries and you see Crown Zenith, Sea and Sky collections. I saw someone in chat in a recent live stream. They said they were getting Crown Zenith packs at like $240 to $260 a piece. Out the door. After all said and done, they were getting $240 to $260 a piece. Some people have been doing that, hoarding them for now, waiting for them to go up, which I think, depending on your opportunity cost, is a reasonable play. I've bought more than 10,000 packs of Crown Zenith in the past 2 to 3 weeks because I really, really like the set, and the stream consumers really, really like the set. But say you have your 10 grand locked up in that, and you're walking past Sea and Sky collections that you could buy for under $3 a pack, and hold those for yourself, or just instantly flip them to someone like me. I know I'm not the only one out there buying Crown Zenith packs at 70 to 80%. And more drastically, I know there's 151 collection boxes that have been out there. There are 151 collection boxes that have been out there for under $3 a pack. And if you have so much money tied up in Pokemon or whatever it may be, that you don't have the money to just instantly arbitrage the packs from Costco. Sorry, my voice isn't still back 100%. To arbitrage the packs from Costco for $3 a pack to someone like me for $6-7 a pack. Your Surging Sparks have treated you well, but that 100 turning into 200, you might be able to walk into Costco. Your opportunity cost for capital, if you don't have the $1,000 to buy the 151 packs, or maybe there's a pallet there waiting for you. If you don't have that capital in that instant, if you don't have that liquidity ready to go, that is very costly. Your opportunity cost in that instant, maybe it's very unexpected. Maybe the last 10 times you went to Costco, they didn't have anything, and so you weren't ready. One thing that I constantly say, and I do my best to abide by, but it's tough at times. Don't go broke on good deals. Like, I think getting boxes, getting English, modern, ultra modern sealed at $100 a box ish, somewhere in that vicinity, historically has done quite well. I buy stuff through my distributor. I buy stuff wholesale. I'm buying it like between 90 and 95, depending on the set, depending on the day. And there are times though that a distributor will call me up and say, hey, or they'll send out an email saying, hey, this just got restocked. This just had a reprint, whatever it may be. And if you're not ready to go, don't go broke on good deals. Don't go broke on things that will likely do well for you. And then you're going to miss the things that will do great for you. Because one thing that I love, I love buying, and my opportunity cost in the next month or so for Prismatic, I have an allocation of Prismatic that'll cost about $30,000. My opportunity cost, the time that those invoices hit for my distributors, is higher than most other times. I'm not positive that it will be the case, but I'm quite confident. I'm quite confident that set will trade for above MSRP, significantly above MSRP, right out of the gate. Look at what pre-orders are doing right now. If I were to not have 30 grand ready to go to buy those things, or at least 30 grand to charge my credit cards to pay in the next 30 to 45 days for the statement date, that would be extremely costly. That would be me going broke on good deals and not having money for when the great deals come along. Because one thing that I really like, as I just said 3 times in the past 2 minutes, buying ultra modern sealed at the right standard, proper, like historical price, 90 to 100 bucks a box, somewhere in there. Even better than that though, when you can buy something, like I'm constantly buying at 70 to 80% of market for single slabs and sealed. But when you walk through Costco on some certain days, you might be able to buy 151 at 30, 40% of market. You might be able to buy Crown Zenith at 50, 60, 70% of market. Those are rates that I almost never have the ability to pay that low. I don't really go out and do that play myself. I only have one Costco relatively close to me. I've talked about why I don't want to be that guy on the front lines, on the ground floor. I want other people to be my boots on the ground. But yeah, that's a big long rant and ramble about what I mean when I say opportunity cost. It's highly dependent on your situation, and it's highly dependent on the time frame that we're in and what deals are being given to you. Opportunity cost will never be equal for any 2 individuals. It will never be like identical for any 2 individuals. And cost is one. I've been talking for 19 minutes now, all about cost. Time, space is another. Say you've got say you live in a New York City apartment and you only have so much space. Yeah, buying those Sea and Sky boxes, and trying to keep them sealed, that might be space that now if you have those things there, you don't have the opportunity to put other things. The space one's not as big of a deal. Where I live, especially where I live and the access to space that I have, it's not as big of a consideration. But depending on your situation, space might be. And then time too. Like, how active do you want to be in this? I'm full-time, so I am devoting 40 to 60 plus hours a week every week to this as it's my day job. But that might not be the case for you. You might want to do it in the most passive means possible. You might only have a couple hours a week that you allocate to this. So your considerations will be very different from my considerations. And like Dan's talking about going to Costco and breaking down product. And I've had people do the math on it in the past. Like effective hourly rates, $100 an hour, $300 an hour, depending on the product, depending on the exact market price for the packs at the time. But some people might say that's not worth my time. I'm a doctor and I make $300, $400, $500,000 a year, and I only get to see my family X amount of time. I want to buy some modern sealed for it to appreciate over time, but I'm not about to be getting paper cuts and cardboard cuts and plastic cuts, breaking down Sea and Sky collection boxes from Costco, even if I can make $200 an hour, because I make that at my day job. Everyone's situation is different. So the answer to these questions for everyone is going to be different. Um, and then to like more of a broader financial thing is like, what is the risk-free rate? When you're like me and you don't have a 7% mortgage you can pay down, you don't have a 30% credit card you can pay down and get those guaranteed rates. You look at like treasuries. This is more for like classical financial investing and things like that. What is the risk-free rate? I guess it's not entirely risk-free because you're counting on the U.S. government. You're counting on the fiat currency continuing, which if that doesn't happen, we've got big problems. But yeah, like 10-year treasuries and things of that nature. The risk-free rates of today, you might be able to find high-yield savings accounts getting 5% or so, somewhere in that vicinity. So yeah, that's a fairly low bar though, relative to a lot of the returns that the market's done in the past year, and the market's done historically 7 to 10%, depending on how aggressive you want to be, pre-post inflation, how you're looking at it. But yeah, let me use my buckets to go a little bit deeper on all this. I figured I'd probably end up doing half an hour or longer, and I think we're headed towards that. Let me double check my notes and make sure I don't have anything else. So yeah, should I sell? Maybe, depending on your situation, depending on your opportunity cost. Hopefully this video, this long rant ramble, will help you be guided towards that answer. Hopefully this all makes sense. But yeah, so my buckets. I went into a long conversation on what the buckets were. I'm going to quickly gloss through them and just kind of say like if you are a collector, flipper, scalper, investor, full-time business, whatever you are, not necessarily budget. Budget's kind of like a dirty word. People don't like the word budget, but you should set goals. Whatever you're doing, like set collecting goals. I used to set like I want to finish this set, I want to finish this, and I used to have like a fixed amount, $5,000. I put $5,000 and then I put a certain amount of time in. Opportunity cost in time is big. That's actually, let me finish that rant on opportunity cost on time. I didn't really dive as deep in time. One thing that I've talked about in many live streams, I used to sit at a standard lunch room table with a bunch of my old coworkers, and I'd hear them talking for hours and hours on the latest crypto, the latest Pokemon set coming out, whatever it may be. And they would talk for hours and hours and hours, and they'd make plays to the scale of like $50, $100. Like, what are we doing? Their opportunity cost on the amount of time, mental energy, effort, all this stuff that they were pouring into Pokemon cards or crypto, whatever it may be, if they had just devoted that time working harder at their day job, if they had just devoted that time into thinking about their own personal finances more, like if your sole goal, and I understand that you mix business with pleasure a little bit, sometimes the sole goal is not just highest potential investment return. Sometimes it's like Pokemon is fun, the other stuff is boring, so I don't want to do that. But the amount of times that I've seen people that it's just like, man, if you put half this effort and energy and time into getting better at your job, you'd probably climb the ladder and you'd probably like double your income over the next 5 years. And if your sole goal is to make more money, have more money in 5, 10, 20 years, that you might be better served doing that. You might be better served at times. Certain people doing this as like a side hustle, whatever, might be better served just getting a second job. And people really don't like to hear that. But so many times it's true. So many times it's true because it is guaranteed. It is known. Like, hey, you make $20 an hour. If you go put in a 10-hour shift on a Saturday when they're offering overtime, less taxes and all that other stuff, you're going to make time and a half, $20 an hour. You're going to make $300 minus taxes and all that. Yes, they do withhold more, but you get it back at the end of the year in a bigger return if they overhold because of overtime, all that stuff, yada, yada. But yeah, continuing on, let's go to the buckets for a little bit. However you're interacting with the hobby, you should always be conscious of how much what your cash flow is. If you're an LGS, you need to be conscious of like, hey, my overhead is this, payroll hits this day, rent hits this day. Next couple years, I'm gonna need to put a new AC unit on the roof. Yada 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 yada. This, that, and the other thing. You always need to be conscious of all that. Building an emergency fund, whether it's some people will tell you a year, 6 months, a week, whatever it is, you always need to be conscious. You always need to have some amount because talking about that guy that got his car repoed. He was talking about cryptos and this and that and the other thing. Maybe he had some Pokemon cards. I don't know. He ended up getting his car repoed because unexpected expenses came up, and he probably had $1,000 in his bank. He probably had plans for his next 2-3 car payments until his muffler went. Until his I don't remember what it was exactly at the time, but I remember there was a story behind it. There was always a story. There was always an excuse. There was always a reason why he was a victim of his circumstance. Because who could have foreseen like a 15-year-old car having some kind of issues with it? Like I currently live in a 20-year-old house that when they built it, they probably put 20 or 25-year shingles on it. I was just on my roof the other day putting up the Christmas lights, and when I look at my shingles, the amount of like stone left on the shingles is minimal. Like at some point soon, I'm gonna start seeing leaks here and there, and within the next like 3, 4, 5 years tops, might be next year, but 3, 4, 5 years tops, I'm going to have to put a roof on my house. That is not unexpected. That is not a surprise. My house is 20. It was built 20 years ago. It was built in 2004. I just put a furnace in last year. At some point, the water heater. Like these things need to be planned for. They are kind of an emergency. They are kind of unexpected. But if you're really doing things the right way and planning properly, they're not all that expected. And same thing goes again. Even if you are just doing this for fun, even if you're a business, like say you're a business, which I am, if you are a business, your personal stuff still matters. Like whether or not like shout out to Java Akuma. I heard Java Akuma talking recently in a live about how he has like a very large, I think he mentioned like a year emergency fund for his personal expenses in his personal life. And then he talked about it in a live stream publicly, so hopefully he's fine with me talking about it here. And then he talked about how he allocates some portion of like his business capital towards like, let me save that for a rainy day. Let me save that if a big opportunity comes up. Those numbers, like again, whether it's 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, whatever you deem appropriate. Hopefully it's based off some amount of actual math. Hopefully it's based off nothing. But yeah, that is important. Employer sponsored matching funds. So even bigger than what I said earlier, opportunity cost. Where I used to work, before say I had $1,000 credit card debt where I used to work. I never did while I was there, but if I did, before I would do that, my opportunity cost, lower hanging fruit than a 30% interest credit card, would be employer sponsored matching funds. Where I used to work, if you put 1% in to your 401k, they would match it 100%. So your one would double, guaranteed. If you made 50 grand a year, you put in $500 across your all your paychecks throughout the year, they put in $500. So regardless of whatever the market does, regardless of what investments you pick, if you pick no investment, your 500 turns to 1,000, guaranteed. And then profit sharing. So the 10 years I was there, profit sharing averaged 3 to 4%. So if you put in 500, you get 500 for free, and then at the end of the year, depending on how well the company did, you get an additional $1,500 to $2,000. So that $500 in certain years that I was at my company turned to $2,500. Like not guaranteed, because some years it was only 1,500, 2,000, whatever. But on average, a guaranteed multiplicative factor on what you were putting in. Like talking about 100% returns of Alvin Skies, this, that, and the other. Surging Sparks, 100% returns in a couple of months. This was 3, 4, 500% return in a year, every year that I was at my company. So yeah, massive, and I would shun investing in Surging Sparks if I did not yet max out my employer sponsored matching funds. And one thing that blew my mind, I talked to people at HR. I talked to the people who manage the 401k plan. 20 to 25%. 1 out of 4 to 5 people at the company that I worked at. When I started there, it was a 600-person company. When I ended, it was a 1,000-person company. There were approximately 200 to 250 people at that company that did not take the free money. Maybe one of them invested in Pokemon, and blows my mind the opportunity cost to shun a guaranteed double up at minimum, 5x at maximum for what might be a double up. Might be like, yes, Pokemon, there are boxes that have 2x, 5x in a year. But when it's scalable, tax advantage, all that stuff, yada yada, blows my mind that people shun this to dabble in cardboard. This is where I talked about earlier, 30% credit card rates. We don't need to go deeper into that. And that's 7% mortgages, 10% student loans, whatever you're talking about, whatever you have. Yeah, this is one of the big buckets that I always talk about, maxing out my IRAs, maxing out my 401ks. One big reason that I invest in the traditional stuff. My balances aren't there yet, but hopefully they will get there someday. One thing in Pokemon, like I did a video earlier this year. My dad and I invested $50,000 into a pallet of Pokemon cards. And we're up over 20%. We're up like 20% in 6 months. Doing amazing. But I had to like buy a bunch of stuff. I had to put hundreds of pounds of cardboard onto a pallet. I had to load that pallet up into my minivan, probably going over the payload capacity on my Kia Carnival. And I had to drive that stuff over to one of my dad's storage locations. And then I had to handle it again. And I had to load it off the pallet onto a shelf. And then someday in 2030, I'm probably gonna break that pallet down and send it all to my Fanatics live streamers. The amount of handling, the amount of like work that goes into that. Like, yes, it can be passive-ish for 6 years. I will just be sitting, waiting, like doing nothing. I'm not doing anything with that actively. But the amount of work on the front end and on the back end, it's a fair bit of work for $50,000. 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. You can have in a brokerage account, in a 401k IRA, you can click a couple buttons and you can be in and out and have it in your bank account within a business day or two. The scalability of the traditional stuff, the actual passive nature. If I ever become incapacitated, if something ever happens, my wife and heirs will have some amount of work to do to like turn all this cardboard and crazy stuff into actual capital that they can do something with. Whereas my 401ks and IRAs and stuff, again, it's a click of a couple buttons. They don't have to worry about that. They will not be getting a major haircut on that. They will not be having to let someone else sell that for them for 70, 80%. I mean, maybe even less than that if they're not lucky, if they're not talking to the right people. But click a couple buttons, 99.9% you will get on all that kind of stuff. Infinitely scalable, functionally infinitely scalable. Yeah, saving more for retirement, all those things. And then everyone has different goals. What are you saving for? Are you saving for a big annual vacation? Are you saving for that new roof? Whatever it may be. Those are the buckets. Those are the things that I always point at above when I flash them on screen really quickly. That's opportunity cost. A little over 30 minutes to get through it. I don't think I have anything else, but yeah, one other note that I had here that I forgot to cover. One thing I used to do, I still find myself doing it from time to time. If you look at my eBay and you sort by low price to high price, my time is limited. I'm only putting 40 to 60 hours a week approximately. And every time that I pack an order of a $1.19 MetaZoo single, every time I pack an order of 1,000 bulk energy cards or something of that sort, that's time that I'm spending making some money. I'm making a little bit of money, but that's time that I'm not doing something else that might be a better use of my time. That's time that I could be making another YouTube video, and maybe that video gets pushed out in the algorithm and I find a new big consigner. I find a new consigner that will consign 50 grand of cards a year, or 50 grand of cards at once even. Maybe that's time that I don't respond to one of my emails quick enough. I've got a collection waiting in there, a $10,000 collection that someone's offering to me for 70%. And well, Dan's packing MetaZoo single orders for $1, $2 a piece. While Dan's doing XYZ, he doesn't have the ability to act on that in time, and someone else buys it. So opportunity cost comes in time too. And then time spent in the business is time not spent with family. And yeah, that's a whole different set of calculations goes into how you want to optimize, how you want to maximize. And set smart goals and do things every day that bring you towards them. And keep in mind the risk with what you're doing. Keep in mind the opportunity cost of what you're doing. Um, if you made it all the way to the end, talking about risk, let's do the skull emoji. Be mindful of the risk in what you're doing. There's risk in all this, and there's opportunity cost in all this. There are trade-offs in every decision that you make when you are spending your time or spending your money on one thing. You don't have the ability to spend that on other things. So always consider what are the things that you are passing up when you're making a purchase or spending your time. So yeah, with that, I end my video. I appreciate everyone watching. I will catch you all later.